It's time that you learn how to color grade, and I'm going to show you exactly my entire process from the moment that I film the clips to post-production. So let's hop over to my desk, I'll do a screen share and walk you through the steps. All right, are we rolling? I think we're rolling. Before we start the video, as you know, we always got to start with a nice iced coffee. That is so freaking good. All right, so before I show you my exact process for how I color grade, I want to give you a little bit of context into the video. I'm going to share two ways of how I color grade. One, how I color grade my clips that are shot in auto. The second is going to be how I color grade my footage that was shot in RAW and in a controlled environment. I've seen a lot of these tutorials and they put a lot of emphasis on the post-production process. And don't get me wrong, a lot of the magic does happen there. But I also think there's an opportunity to focus on a little bit of the setup process before the person even hits record. Before I even get into the color grading process, here's a few things that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about what is my lighting source? What does my environment look like? And do I have the correct white balance? White balance is really important too, because if you try to color grade and you're already working off of a color that is not necessarily the most neutral spot, it's gonna be really hard to mess with those colors. It's like applying filter on top of a filter. To get a good color grade and to have the most leverage over your footage, you really wanna make sure that your footage is color corrected, that you have a good source of lighting, and that your environment is interesting as well. All right, enough yapping. Let's hop into my computer. That is good. All right, so we're on the computer. I'm gonna show you how I color grade this first clip. Now this was completely shot in auto, so I didn't control the exposure, the ISO, none of that. And this is good because there's gonna be moments when shooting in auto is just gonna make much more sense for your content creation. We don't always have the privilege of being able to control the light and control and have the time to control our settings. So this software that I'm using is called DaVinci Resolve. It's completely free. There is a studio version which I actually do not use. So you're gonna be able to follow along exactly with what you're seeing on my screen. So first thing I'm gonna do is just drag the clip into the timeline. All right, so let's go to the color palette thing over here. And so once you've got your clips selected, you're gonna see that you have this fun little node right here. Now, before we start the color grade, typically I like to scrub through my clips and find that kind of hero image that we're gonna work off of. And this is just gonna be helpful so that we know what the image is gonna look like. All right, so I think right here is a good image that we can use. So again, typically I usually keep it very simple if it's gonna be, if for my clips that are shot on auto. So maybe I'll make two nodes, and you can do that by hitting Alt-S on your keyboard or Command-S for yours if you're on a Mac. So these two nodes I like to separate. I like to use the first one for like adjusting my exposure, contrast, temperature, and then I'll use the second one to actually do the color grading. So let's go to the first slide. So as you can see, it's a little bit bright in this area, so I might just drag the highlights down just a tad bit. Now, just the tad bit, so -34, I think that's good. And then I think overall the exposure is looking pretty decent. I might just drop my shadows just a little bit, maybe up my gamma, and I think we're pretty much set over there. Now I'm gonna move to the second node, and I'm gonna take a look at my lift, gamma, gain, and offset. These color wheels are gonna have a really strong impact on your overall image. My style, I typically like the more colder look. So I like the shadows being blue and I like the midtones being pretty warm. So I'm gonna drop my lift down a little bit, and you can already see the walls go from this beige to a little bit of a bluish greenish look, and I really like that look, and I'll also do that with the gamma. Now you'll start to notice that the overall image is starting to look a little bit too cool, so we're gonna counter that with a little bit of the gain, and you can already start to see that stylized look come into play. And then I'll just play with the offset to kind of get in the right look. So here's what the clip looks like when it's in auto. And here's what it looks like after we've added our stylized look. Now, just so you know, you don't have to necessarily do this on two separate nodes. If you want to keep it really easy for yourself, you can just do it all this on one node. And then if we were to render that out, we would just hit the rocket icon in the bottom right, name your clip, single, export video, QuickTime, codec is H.264. Make sure it's your resolution. And that's all my settings for when I'm rendering in auto. All right, so let's move to how I color grade my footage that was shot in manual settings. So I'm gonna drag my clips down into the timeline. And as you can see already, we have a very gray looking clip. It's not colorful. So let's fix that. Again, we're gonna go to a part of the image where most of the action is happening. All right, so I think this is a good spot for us to work on. So I'm going to create a few nodes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so I've created these 8 nodes. With nodes, things are gonna work in the order of operations. So whatever you do here, it's gonna go through here, and then here, and here, here. So the first node, I'm gonna label that as WB for white balance. I'm gonna label this as exposure, and this one I'm gonna leave blank just in case we need it for anything else. This one I will do the color space transform. This one I'm gonna label it as the actual color grading. This one I'm gonna leave it for skin. This one I'll label for glow. And right here I'll do the LUT. All right, so this is how I structure my color grade. So before I start color grading, I will go to the right. All right, so before I start color grading, I'll drag the color space transform onto the CST LUT. Now this is going to convert my raw footage into a Rec 709 format. So the input color space is, I think, was this one an S-Gamut 3? We might have not had none. I think this one I particularly didn't have a particular one. So the input gamma is going to be S-Log2. The output color space is going to be Rec 709. And the output gamma is going to be Rec 709. The order of what you do is going to be really important. That's why I have it set up here. So after we convert the footage from S-Log2 to Rec 709, we just want to make sure that the overall white balance is correct. And one way we can do that is go to the white balance node, go down here to the eyedropper tool and select something that's white. I'm actually not going to do anything because I think it looks fine. The next thing that I like to do is I like to go to my LUT node, right click, hit LUT, go to Film Looks and select the Rec 709 Kodak 2383D55. Now immediately you're going to see that the footage has lots of contrast. So I'm gonna help reduce some of this by going to my exposure LUT. I'm gonna up the gamma a little bit. I'm gonna up the shadow so it's not so intense. Drop my gain, and I'll increase the gamma a little bit to soften it. And already you can see that we're recovering some of those details back. I might drop my highlights a little bit as well. And to be honest, it's already looking pretty decent so far. So now I'm gonna move to my color grading node, and I'm just gonna add some blue tones to the shadows, and I might try to fix some of the mid-tones. So let's see, lift. And you can already start to see, like for example right here, take a look at some of the shadows, like right here, you're gonna see that it's gonna start looking a little bit more blue. I'll move the gamma there as well. Move the gain to the warmth. And maybe offset a little bit like that. So after I've done the color grading, the big chunk of the color grading, I just want to make sure that my skin is looking decent. To be honest, right now, it's not that bad. So to color correct the skin, I'm going to go to my skin node. Under qualifier HSL, we're going to hit this eyedropper tool and select a part of my skin. So you're not going to notice anything really happen yet, so you have to hit Shift H on your keyboard, and that's going to show you only what has been selected that matches the color that you've selected. So immediately our selection is not perfect, because if you hit Shift H again, you're going to see that on my skin there's a lot of different colors happening. So we have a little bit more orange right here, a little bit of a darker bluish area here, and then you're gonna see that it's pretty light on this side. So we need to do our best to kind of recover some of those details so that we can have more control over the colors that's happening there. So we're gonna hit Shift H again to give us that preview. what we're gonna do is start adjusting the hue, and you can already see that we are recovering some of those details. Now the hard part is you're gonna see that we're gonna recover details in other areas that have a similar color profile, like the table, the background, which has a warm light. So we're just gonna keep playing with this until we get mostly what we want. And because we're making YouTube videos here, I'm not gonna go super in depth. It doesn't need to be perfect by any means. That's pretty decent. The table might change a little bit of color, but I don't really care. All right, so this is our selection, and honestly, it's not that bad. It could be a lot worse. Let me see if I can refine it just a little bit more. After I've done that, I'm gonna go to the bottom right and switch from waveform to vector scope. Now, when you're gonna see a bunch of different colors, and it's not gonna make any sense, but what you're gonna do is hit Shift H again to just highlight the skin. And you see how this color is a little bit closer to this line. Ideally, we have our color group leaning towards this line here. That's gonna give us the most accurate colors for our skin. So I'm gonna go to the offset and just slightly move it there. All right, so the footage is looking good, really good so far. The last thing that I like to do to give my footage that glow is actually just adding a glow. So we're gonna go to the right, we're gonna go to the library and look for glow. So you can see glow right here. I'm gonna drag it. So for select output, we're gonna go to glowing image. We're gonna drop the shine threshold all the way down. It's gonna look really bright. And then we're gonna go and change the composite type from add to soft light. Now, all you need to do is just adjust the opacity. We can make the image have an extreme glow or a much more reduced. I like adding glow because it takes an image that is that has a lot of contrast and makes it a little bit more soft. And it also gives a more dramatic look as well. And voila, I think that looks pretty good. Let me show you before and after. So this was before, and this is the after. And that is pretty much everything that I do to color grade. Now listen, we're making YouTube videos here. We're not making a big commercial production. So there are probably things that I would have done much better, but this is kind of the rough process that I do when I'm color grading my clips to get that cinematic feel. This clip is actually taken from my Sunday reset videos. So if you want to see how that looked, you can watch that right here or here. Now again, this is just my really quick process for how I color grade my YouTube videos. Hopefully you were able to take something from it and be inspired to create something yourself. To recap, I would say some important things to consider is ensure that you have a good white balance before you start filming. That way you have a clean slate, clean canvas to work off of. That way you can truly leverage the colors within your clip. And then 2, having a good source of lighting. And then 3, playing around with the settings and finding the look that you want. And number 4, aka bonus tip, just make sure that when you're filming, you have a rough idea of how you want the clip to be and how you want the vibe to give out. Because that's gonna also have a strong impact on how you film and then the final color grade. After you color grade, take a break, go walk outside, go look at something, and then come back to it. And you might notice that, wow, maybe this is actually not a good color grade at all. And so you can make those little adjustments, because sometimes when you get really into it, your eyes start to play tricks on you. So take breaks, practice, and soon you're gonna get the hang of it. All right, and there we have it. That's exactly how I color grade my YouTube videos. I hope that this was helpful. I know it's a lot of information kind of all at once, but I will say that practice. It's not gonna necessarily be perfect. If you made it this far, thank you so much for spending your time watching this video. Really appreciate you, really appreciate the support. If you have any more questions, drop them down below. If there's anything you'd like for me to go more in depth on, let me know in the comments as well. And make sure to subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.